We're going to begin in our mountain pose at the top of our mats with our feet about shoulder width apart. We'll soften our knees, lengthen through the spine, and let our shoulders fall back and down, opening our palms at our side, taking some nice deep breaths here. With the next inhale, we'll bring our arms up, and we'll exhale down, finding our chair. We want to be sure that we're keeping our hips above our knee line and that we're engaging our thighs. We'll take a second to check to make sure that our spine is long and strong. If we need to tuck that pelvis under or let it come out more to allow for our core to have more stability, we can do that. And if we have any kind of shoulder pain, we can just bring those hands to the heart, pressing them up and down, moving at our own pace with our own breath. On the next inhale, we'll bring those hands up, and exhale, hinging at the hips, swan diving forward into our forward fold. We're going to cycle those heels on and off the mat, nodding the head yes, shaking the head no, just relaxing the upper body down toward the earth. We'll grab onto either elbow, let those arms swing back and forth. We'll gently move into a twist. We're going to walk our fingers to the outer edge of our right foot, keeping our hips in line. And then we'll gently walk them back to center and then to the outer edge of the left foot. Gently twisting, we'll come back to center. Inhale as we reverse swan dive up, and exhale, swan diving back down into that forward fold. Moving back and forth, connecting our breath with our movement, just calibrating our body for when we might be with our head down below our heart in our downward dogs later on. We'll inhale up, nice deep breaths, exhale down. Always hinging at the hips, we'll exhale, finding our mountain pose. We're going to begin our lateral flexion. We'll inhale the right arm up, stretching from the base of the foot to the tips of the fingers. Exhale down, inhale the left arm up. Moving back and forth, opening up the side body. You should be able to see our palm when it's up above us. Finding that space between our ribs, still keeping the shoulders relaxed and back. We'll bring our toes to the outer corners of our mat. So we're just going to spread our legs apart, lengthen our arms. We're going to exhale, pulling down, letting the elbows reach toward the ribs, bending the knees, finding our moonflowers. We'll inhale up as we expand and exhale down as we come into our squat position. We need to keep our hips above our knee line. And when we inhale up, we need to make sure we're keeping those shoulders back and down. We'll move into our sunflowers. Inhaling, sweeping the ceiling. Exhaling, scratching the floor. Stacking that head above the heart and the heart above the hips. Still keeping the spine long. We'll bring the hands above the head and down to the heart, stepping back, finding our mountain pose. We're going to inhale up all together and exhale down, finding the forward fold. We'll starfish our hands on our mat and step back, finding our downward facing dog. So our hands and feet are all about shoulder width apart. We're going to cycle our heels on and off the floor, warming up the calves, keeping our head right between our elbows, and pressing through all 10 fingers. When the calves are a little more warm, we'll let them fall down toward the mat. We're going to inhale forward into our plank and exhale back into our downward dog. We'll move through this flow a few times, inhaling into our plank, stacking those shoulders above the wrists, and exhale back into our downward dog. Warming up the calves even more, giving that core a little bit of a workout. We want to be sure that we're keeping our hips elevated a little bit here. And if we need to drop our knees down, we can do that. We're going to sink back, finding our extended child's pose, letting the hips reach back toward the heels. Arms are stretched out across the mat. Inhaling, we'll find our neutral spine. So our hands are right beneath our shoulders, knees are beneath the hips. We're going to arch the back, inhaling into our cat. Exhale, letting the belly fall down into our cow. So we want to start with our tailbone here. We'll start inhaling into our cat, exhaling, letting the tailbone come out, opening the chest. Inhaling, tucking the chin with our cat, exhaling, letting that tailbone come out. We'll come back into our neutral spine and sink back into our extended child's pose. If we ever need more space here, we can always spread those knees apart a little bit, giving us a deeper stretch. Breathing down into our mat. Here in our extended child's pose, we can always stack our fists and place them beneath our forehead, giving our neck a little bit more support if we need it. We'll inhale up, finding our neutral spine. We're going to bring those knees back a little bit so we can find our kneeling plank. We're going to lower down into our kneeling crocodile and inhale as we press up into our cobra pose. We'll press back into our extended child's pose and inhale up, finding that kneeling plank again. This was our kneeling half series. And in our kneeling crocodile, we want to be sure that those elbows are brushing past our ribs. And we'll sink back into our extended child's pose, inhaling up again, engaging the core, lowering down, brushing the elbows past the ribs, inhaling up, opening the heart into our cobra, exhaling, letting those hips reach back into our extended child's pose. Tuck our toes, gently walk to the top of the mat, finding our forward fold. And we'll inhale, reverse swan diving up, and exhale into our mountain pose. We're going to inhale up and exhale, finding our chair. We're moving into our sun salutations, inhaling up, exhaling into our forward fold, swan diving down. We'll starfish those hands on the mat, step back, finding our full or kneeling lunge. So we want to stack our front knee above our front ankle. In our back leg, our toes are facing forward toward the front of our mat. We can keep our hands at our heart. We want to be sure that we're keeping our hips elevated a little bit here. We can always drop that knee whenever we need to. We'll step back, finding our downward facing dog. And drop those knees, press forward, finding our kneeling plank. Engaging the core, lowering down into our kneeling crocodile and lifting off into our cobra. Pressing back, extended child's pose. And walking forward into our forward fold. We'll inhale all the way up, exhale, finding our chair. Make sure that pelvis is in line. Inhale up and exhale back into our forward fold, this time stepping back with our left foot, finding our full or kneeling lunge. And bring those hands back down, exhaling, finding our downward dog. Inhaling, finding our kneeling plank. lowering down into our crocodile and opening up the heart into our cobra. Pressing back, extended child's pose. Inhaling up, walking to the top of the mat into our forward fold, and we'll inhale, reverse swan diving up. Exhaling, finding that chair. We'll inhale up and back into our forward fold. Step back with the right foot, finding the lunge that we prefer. Bring the hands to the heart. Taking a breath and then exhaling, starfishing the hands, stepping back, finding our downward dog. Inhaling forward into our full plank, stacking the shoulders above the wrist, rocking forward on the toes, bending those elbows 90 degrees, and inhaling up, finding our upward facing dog. Only the tops of the feet and the hands are touching the mat here. Press back, downward dog. Walk to the top of the mat into our forward fold. Inhale, lengthening the spine into our half lift, and inhaling into our mountain pose. We'll come back into our chair. Inhale up and exhale, swan diving into our forward fold. Stepping back, finding that lunge, getting that nice deep stretch in our thigh, taking a breath, and exhaling, starfishing the hands on the mat, stepping back, downward dog. Inhaling into that plank, fuller kneeling, we'll rock forward on the toes, bend the elbows 90 degrees, and inhale up into our upward facing dog, stacking the shoulders above the wrists once again. We'll press back, downward dog, and walk to the top of the mat into our forward fold. Inhaling, half lift, the gaze is at the floor. Exhaling down and inhaling, reverse swan diving up. Exhaling into our chair. Inhaling and exhaling down. We can just move with our own breath at our own pace, finding our lunge, full or kneeling. Taking a breath, exhaling, finding the downward dog. Coming forward, full or kneeling plank, full or kneeling crocodile, and then upward dog or cobra. It's up to you. You can do whichever flow you like. Walk forward to the top of the mat into our forward fold. Inhale, half lift, exhale down. Inhale, reverse swan dive up. Exhale into our chair. We only have one half left to go. We'll inhale up, exhale, forward fold. Step back with the left foot. Find the lunge. Breathing as we move, breath with movement, one breath, one pose, finding our downward dog, pressing forward into whichever plank we like. We want to be sure in our crocodile that we don't go down all the way. In our kneeling crocodile we do, in our full crocodile we don't. Into our downward dog, walk to the top of the mat, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale. Inhale, reverse swan dive up. And find our mountain pose. Letting those hands come down at our sides. Taking a few breaths here. Inhaling up and exhaling, finding our forward fold, always hinging at the hips. We're going to starfish the hands, step back with our feet, finding our downward dog. Coming onto the toes, we'll raise our right leg straight up in the air. Three-legged downward dog. Exhale, we'll bring that right ankle up toward our left wrist into our pigeon pose. So we want to be sure that our back leg is straight behind us. If we need a block or any kind of support underneath our right hip, we can place it there, allowing the floor to come a little bit closer to our body. The idea here is to get a really good lower back stretch. We can come down onto our elbows if we want to. but we want to be sure that we're keeping that space between our shoulders and our neck. We can also come all the way down to the floor, or we can stay up on our palms. It's up to us, whatever feels best. Opening the lower back, getting that really deep stretch in the back of our leg. When we're ready, we'll inhale up onto our palms, tuck those back toes under, and lift the hips. Using the core, we'll raise our right leg straight back into the air and lower it down onto the mat. Press through our downward dog, come back onto our toes, raise the left leg up. This time we're going to swing our left ankle up toward our right wrist, into our pigeon on the opposite side. If one side feels different than the other, that's really, really normal. We just want to be sure that we're listening to our body and feeling what we feel. So we want to be careful not to force any kind of pose. We'll take some nice deep breaths here. Breathing into those areas that are opening. When we're ready, we'll come back onto our palms, tuck our back toes and lift those hips, letting the left leg lengthen into the air. Lowering that foot down to the mat, pressing through our downward dog. Exhaling, letting those knees come to the mat, we'll sink back into our extended child's pose. Letting our arms just stretch out across the mat. Breathing down, we'll inhale up into our neutral spine. We're going to walk forward to the top of the mat, forward fold. Inhale, reverse swan diving up. Exhale, finding our mountain pose. We'll bring the hands to the heart and gently step back with our right foot. So we're finding our pyramid pose. We want to be sure that our feet are right in line. So our toes and our heels are all in a line like we're walking on a tightrope. The closer together our feet are, the more difficult it will be. So if we need a little bit better balance, we can spread our feet apart further. We're going to bring the hands to the heart. We're going to hinge forward as we lead with our heart down toward our knee. So leading downward, keeping our balance, exhaling. We can bring that block in front of us if we have one to support ourselves. There's always time for adjustments. If we ever need to step back or closer together, we can do that. Exhale down, just allowing that front leg to get a very deep stretch. When we're ready, bring those hands back to the heart and hinge upward, leading back with the heart again, hinging all the way, and then gently stepping out of the pose, shaking it out a little bit. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So we'll step back behind our front leg. Our left leg is behind. We're going to keep those toes in line with our heels, and we'll lead with our heart, exhaling as we hinge forward down toward our knee. Should be bringing our nose as close to the knee as is comfortable. Allowing that front leg to really, really get a deep stretch. Breathing here. When we're ready, bring those hands back to the heart and hinging back up all the way and stepping out of the pose. Shaking our legs out, moving that block out of the way if we have one. We'll inhale the arms up above the head And exhale, bring the weight into the right leg. We're finding our tree pose. So we can bring that foot to the ankle, calf, or thigh. We want to find a focal point to breathe into. Keeping the hands at the heart. All 3 trees are really, really good for balance. So if we're up a little bit high and we're having a little bit of trouble, first of all, we want to give ourselves permission to fall out of the pose and permission to get back into it. But we also want to be able to lower that foot down if we need to. We can bring that foot closer to the floor, or if we want a challenge, we can bring it further up the leg. Once we have our feet rooted into the floor, we can elongate our arms out, branching out. We'll inhale, bring the hands above the head and down to the heart. We'll gently step out of the pose. We'll do the same thing on the other side, inhaling up, exhaling, bring that weight down into the left leg, bringing our foot to the ankle, calf, or thigh. Just breathing here in our tree. Beauty of our concentration poses allow us to release anxiety. We can't focus on other things, so we only can focus on one thing. Give our mind a little break. We'll inhale, branching out when we're ready. Being sure that we're still breathing, we'll bring those hands above the head, down to the heart, and mindfully step out of the pose, shaking it out of our legs a little bit. We'll bring that block to the top of our mat if we have one. We're going to step back very carefully with our left leg, stacking our front knee above the ankle. We're going to open up into our warrior 2. Make sure that our shoulders and hips are facing the edge of the mat. Our back toes are at a slight angle, and our arms are lengthening out across the room. Again, if we have any kind of shoulder pain, we can always bring those hands to our heart. We're going to come into our side angle. So we'll bring our right arm to our right knee, stacking our shoulders, bringing our left hand up above. And if we want to, we can come into our extended side angle, bringing our hand down toward the floor or toward a block, and stretching that arm out across the room, similar to our lateral flexion if we're in our extended side angle. Opening the side body. We'll inhale back up, finding our warrior 2. And we're going to sink forward into our warrior 1, shifting the hips and the shoulders toward the front of the mat, keeping those hands up above the head or down at the chest. Just breathing here, noting how our stretch in our back leg intensified when we shifted forward. We're going to move that block out of the way and step forward to the top of the mat. Shaking it out, we'll find our mountain pose. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, stepping back with our left foot, finding our warrior 2, angling those shoulders and hips toward the edge of the mat, letting our back toes come out at an angle, stacking the knee above the ankle. And our arms are reaching out across the room. We're still keeping the shoulders back and down, but we can feel that stretch through our fingertips. When we're ready, we'll come into our side angle, bring the elbow to the knee, lengthening the hand out toward the ceiling. And again, if we want to come into our extended side angle, we can always bring that hand down toward the floor or toward a block And lengthening those arms, stretching through our side body. When we're ready, we'll inhale back up into our warrior two. We'll shift the hips and shoulders forward into our warrior one. Gazing forward. When we're ready, we'll bring the hands to the heart, shift our back toes, and step forward into our mountain pose. Bring the hands to the heart. Take a few breaths here. We'll inhale, pressing up. Exhale, finding the cactus arms. Inhale up. Exhale, opening the chest with our cactus arms. Our back shoulder blades are reaching back toward one another. We're just opening the chest with our breath. Maybe noticing how our throat is more open. Our breath changes a little bit. We'll bring those hands down to our heart. We're going to step our feet apart a little bit, pointing our toes out toward the edges of the mat. We're going to hinge forward into our wide-legged forward fold. Relaxing the head and neck. Reaching back between our feet. We're going to walk the fingers to the outer edge of the left foot. A little stretch. Walk them to the outer edge of the right foot. And we'll walk them back to center. We'll inhale, hinging back up. We'll bring the feet a little closer together. And we're going to come down into our garland pose. So we're going to bend our knees like a deep squat, bringing the hands to the heart. If this is good, we can stay up high, or we can lower all the way down, bringing the hands between the legs, pressing through the elbows toward the knees. This is a really good hip opener. So if we come all the way down, we want to be sure that our feet are grounded on our mat, that our shoulders are nice and open, and that our spine is long and strong. Like I said, if this is uncomfortable, we can stay elevated a little bit. Can keep those hips a little higher. We're going to come back into our forward fold. And we'll inhale, reverse swan diving up. Exhale into our mountain pose. We'll inhale up, exhale down into our forward fold. We'll starfish the hands, step back with both feet, finding our downward dog. Pressing through, maybe noticing how it feels different now that we're warmer. Noticing how it feels different now that we're warmed up. We'll press forward into our plank or kneeling plank. Exhale back into our downward dog. Inhale, we're going to drop the knees and come into our neutral spine. Letting those feet fall flat on the floor. We'll reach out our arm in front of us and extend our opposite leg behind into our spinal balance pose. We'll let those hands and feet come back down, and then we'll elongate the opposite arm and leg, keeping the hand and foot in line with the rest of our body, flexing the back toes, allowing our core to hold us up, dropping those hands and feet back down. Do it one more time on each side. Keeping that strength in our shoulder, that space between our neck and our shoulders. We'll shift those legs out in front of us, finding our sits bones. We're moving into our staff pose. We're going to bring our left knee up toward us, keeping it bent. We're going to do a little open stretch. Then we'll twist toward the knee, gently supporting ourselves behind with our hand, hugging that knee into our chest, letting the head and neck follow. With each inhale, we're lengthening through the spine. With each exhale, we're sinking a little bit deeper. We'll gently twist back to center. We always want to do our opposite stretch, so we'll twist away from the leg, come back to center. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, bending the right knee, lengthening through the spine, and then gently twisting toward the knee, giving our internal organs a little massage. We'll twist back to center, open up on the other side, doing a reverse stretch. Come back to center. We'll let that leg fall flat on the mat. We'll gently lower down onto the floor, hugging our knees into our chest. We'll just rock those knees back and forth a couple times, giving ourselves a nice big hug. We'll let those feet fall flat with our palms flat on the floor, and we're going to bring those heels as close to the fingertips as we can. With the next inhale, we'll lift the hips up, finding our partial bridge. We'll gently lower those hips back down. We'll do it again, lifting the hips. This time, if we want to move into the full bridge, we'll tuck those shoulders underneath, squeeze the glutes together, squeeze the thighs, engage the core, bring those hands underneath our body. Just lift the body up off the floor. We'll slowly release back down, untucking the shoulders, hugging the knees back into the chest. When we're ready, we'll bring our arms out to either side of our body like a T. We'll let our legs fall over to the right side, inhale up to center, over to the left side, and back to center. And these are our windshield wipers, so we're going to let those legs fall over to the side. With our exhale, with our inhale, bring them back. We'll just move back and forth with our breath, gazing toward the opposite hand as we let our legs fall down toward the side. When we're ready, we'll bring those legs back to center. We'll flatten our legs out on the floor if that's comfortable. If it isn't, we can always keep the knees bent, or we can bring our feet into a butterfly position, bring the soles of our feet together. All three of these are good for our final relaxation pose. We'll let our hands open up toward the sky and just soften our eyes, deepening our breath, relaxing our body. And as we rest here, we can just scan our body, sending it a little thank you for practicing today. Tucking the shoulders underneath, allowing the chest to open up a little bit, letting that breath carry us down toward the earth or lift us up toward the sky as we inhale. If we have a thought come to our mind, just greeting it and letting it pass by, not lingering on anything. We'll just rest here for a few seconds. We'll start to bring some awareness back into our body as we wiggle our fingers and toes. Maybe roll our wrists and ankles, getting the pops out. We'll just bend our knees, let them fall over to the right side of our mat, tucking our arm underneath our head, taking a couple breaths here in our baby pose. When we're ready, we'll press up from the floor, finding our easy seated pose or our crisscross applesauce. We'll bring the hands to the heart. Inhale, pressing up toward the sky. Exhale, pulling the breath down. Inhaling up, controlling the breath as we exhale down. And one more time, inhaling up and exhaling to the heart. Peace be with you.